evening. Good evening. Welcome to the July 22nd Planning Board meeting. We have another full agenda. We also have a quorum with Ed, Lindsay, myself, and Kirsten this evening. The agenda is first up, Landrock LLC, 231 Weber Avenue is looking for an extension on their subdivision plat. Then we have 135 Beekman Avenue, Francesco Alessi, of a presentation of a proposed multifamily building. Then we have the Penjon residence at 19 Cedar Street, a proposed two-family site plan approval. And then another presentation of 14 Clinton Street, another proposed two-family residence. Then we get to the Edge on Hudson Riverfront Development Edge on Hudson Riverfront Development Phase 1 Block I has been taken off the agenda. The applicant withdrew their application. Then we have Edge on Hudson again with the Block OP Townhouse Phase 2, preliminary subdivision plat and site plan approval. It's a preliminary presentation for the rest of OP beyond the 20 that have been approved. And we have a presentation of Edge on Hudson Riverfront Development Phase 2 Block H amended site plan. And then last on the agenda is the Sleepy Hollow Local Development Corporation at 60 Continental Street, Phase 2 for their roads and infrastructure site plan approval. So with that, can I get the first applicant who I met walking in?
Hi, good evening, members of the board. My name is Alec Glad from Cuddy and Fader, and we are the attorneys for the applicant, Landrock, who are the developer of the approved 3-lot subdivision at 231 Weber Avenue. So we are here tonight to seek a 1-year extension of our final subdivision approval. You should be in receipt of correspondence making the request in writing from our office dated June 16th, and we supplemented that on June 30th. And I just want to note for the record that that was submitted before the expiration of the approval. So the need for the extension has arisen because the applicant chose not to bond their improvements, but construct them before the chair signed the plat. And they just simply aren't complete, but we're pleased to report that they are progressing well. But we of course need the extension to complete them, and this is just from normal delays in the normal course of construction and complications from the pandemic, just making project management that much harder. So the progress to date, the road work and infrastructure installation is well on its way to be completed. The access drive is in the process of being widened, which was part of the approval, and there are 2 minor outstanding items from what I understand. The first is the bridge entrance needs to be widened to match the width of the drive, but the drive itself is complete. And then there are also stormwater management facilities associated with the road that have been installed, but they're not yet complete. And we're waiting for some supplies, and specifically there's one piece that needs to be installed, which just hasn't arrived yet, then it should be done. And then with respect to water service, the water main for the subdivision is installed, and then there is a pressure testing schedule for next week, which I believe the village and county DOH are aware of. Additionally, water samples will be taken next Tuesday and Wednesday, and the sewer line is complete. So that's the status of the improvements, relatively straightforward. And we obviously want to wrap it up soon, and we hope that we are close to doing so, but we are still seeking a 1-year extension. Rather be safe than sorry. Don't want to waste the board's time and keep coming back. If, for example, the piece that we're waiting for on the stormwater just keeps getting delayed. So that's it. Happy to answer any questions. Our project engineer is also here too. He may be able to explain some better, but thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? That seems reasonable. We went ahead and asked David Smith to draft a resolution for the approval of the extension. So if you would.
So Madam Chair, the planning board has a resolution before it granting the final plat approval extension for 1 year. I'll just read the resolve clause. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board, after review of the materials submitted, does hereby grant the requested extension for 1 year after the date of this resolution. The following modifications and conditions have not been completed to the satisfaction of the planning board and the village building department, and the applicant has not obtained the required building permits or permits for construction in accordance with the approved plans. 1, the applicant shall pay the village of Sleepy Hollow all application and review fees as required by the village code prior to the building permit being issued. The improvement and construction of the contemplated single-family homes will require site plan approval from the planning board. 3, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, an as-built survey shall be provided to the village building department, and any material change to the plan from that approved by the planning board will require the applicant to present the revised plan to the planning board for a plan amendment. Note B, under the purported pedestrian and equestrian easement shall be removed from the final plat. And 5, conditions 3, 4, 5, and 7 of the preliminary plat approval resolution remain in effect.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so,
To vote on it? I move to approve the resolution.
okay. Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
So extension approved.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Alessi?
Okay, I'm Jim Vassalotti, Vassalotti Associates Architects. We're working over here at 135 Beekman Avenue. As my son over here is going to be hooking this up, maybe we can get the site plan up there. But when we resubmitted this last time, I did a list of bullet points, which maybe I could read them now, just because I know everyone has them, I'm assuming read them, but we can do a quick overview, okay?
Okay. Are you getting his audio pickup? Okay, great.
Can you get the site plan? How you doing? Good.
I assumed you were wrong, it's my fault. So he's got that one, yeah, that one should. Just make sure it's on. There we go.
Okay,
Good? Okay. Anyhow, this is the revised proposed site plan as the existing site. This is the latest site plan. Okay. The building has been reduced in size from 15 residential units to 12. The lot coverage has been reduced from 7,230 square feet to 6,026 square feet. The building has been reduced in length from 171 feet to 139 feet. Front yard setbacks adjusted to be more consistent with the existing neighborhood properties. Architectural design revised to be more consistent with the existing contextual as the architectural design standards for the proposed Sleepy Hollow zoning code updates. Required parking spaces have been reduced from 30 cars to 24 cars. Percentage of full parking spots to compact spots has been increased from 63% to 79%, minimum allowed 60%. 2 charging stations for electrical vehicles have been placed under the building. Open space for residents provided at grade required 1,200 square feet, provided 3,600 square feet. Dumpster enclosed, provided at the end of the driveway. Trash to be brought out to the curb on collection days. The trash, they will bring it to the curb. The dumpster in the back is closed. At the end of the driveway, trash to be brought pickup tank. The transformers, I've been speaking with Con Edison, they want it at the property line and in a vault, so it'll be below grade. Bicycle storage has been provided in the cellar, additional bike storage racks are provided at grade. So we try to incorporate, obviously by the reduction of the 3 units, it makes the site plan workable, where before, it was sort of not workable. We did set the building a little closer to the street as per the new contextual zoning. And we split the building, the facade, in half, as we discussed, to break down the mass of the building. And the average setback on the street, left to right, is about 13 feet. So we're setting it back 10 and 15 feet, which is 12 and a half feet, so it's pretty much what they're looking for in the new zoning. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, that's where we're at. Wasn't the building made narrow?
Minimal, yeah, a couple feet narrower to accommodate the.
Yeah, to make the 2
larger
lanes,
driveway.
right?
Yes, so we made the building narrower, we made it almost 40 feet shorter. We did submit a landscaping plan, which there were some comments on your consultant's reviews, which we'll address. You want us to take you through the whole set?
Well, we can just have a discussion. I appreciate that you've taken into account our feedback from the last several planning board meetings. I think the green space in the back is a nice feature for the residents.
Can you see the whole set, Chris? Oh, that's- okay.
And have you met with the fire department to discuss emergency vehicle access?
We discussed fire truck access, emergency vehicle, no.
Okay, well, the fire
We
truck
do.
is the largest of the vehicles, so, so has the fire department indicated that they are able to provide emergency services?
We didn't discuss it with the fire department. We will, we'll start this week. but
Okay,
We just discussed the 20-foot wide driveway.
okay. All right, so that's an open item, a follow-up with the fire department.
Okay.
Some of the feedback that I think Sean's already shared some of these plans, there's a concern as far as turning onto the property for a fire truck,
Right.
given the location of the curb cut and the parking space right at the front
the
of the
curb.
building.
Well, I think there would be an issue if we don't eliminate the one parking spot to get the fire truck to swing in.
Mhm. Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
The removal of the garbage, because we talked about the last time,
Yes.
12 families garbage is going to be put out on Beekman Avenue, right on this curb.
Well, one, I don't know, and I know my client did speak with someone as to whether or not the village is going to pick up the trash, or do they have to provide their own trash collection?
Because that's a big concern for me, because along Beekman Avenue, they're all 1 or 2 family homes.
Yes, no, I understand.
And you have the regular sidewalk, and now you're going to have 12
Bags of garbage.
every Tuesday and Thursday,
Right.
12 families of garbage,
Well-
12 families of, there's no way, in other words, you can have a hopper in the back and have a garbage truck just back up.
Well, right now, the
Like they do
driveway
in
is
Wilson.
wide enough, to back up a garbage truck.
Make it wider.
Well, I can't make it much wider than the 20 feet I made it already. Well, if I can get a fire truck there, I can get a garbage truck there.
Well, I'm not saying you need a large garbage truck, but we have a smaller garbage truck that
Okay.
picks up hoppers at the
So, is
restaurants and stuff.
Is the village going to pick the trash up? Is that
I have
part-
no idea.
Neither do I.
I just don't want to see,
Well,
12 families of garbage
yeah, sitting out all
across from
day.
St. Teresa's Church on the
Well,
sidewalk.
there could be some coordination with the trash collectors. They're gonna come up that street at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30. So the owner and his porter could say, okay, it's 10 o'clock, bring the trash out, half an hour, it's outside, it's gone. It's not gonna be sitting outside all day.
Who brings it out?
The porter, whoever they hire to maintain it, yeah. somebody's got to maintain the building. So the reporter would bring it out and that's where it would be collected. Sure, the garbage should be out for no more than a half an hour if they know the time that they come down that street.
But you have a compactor listed in
Yes.
the basement, so the residents will take their refuse down to the...
No, we put a trash chute. It'll
Okay,
be a trash compactor, it'll bring it out in those sausage bags. It's not like big garbage bags, it's compact, I think maybe about 16-inch diameter, maybe 3.5 feet long, and that's how it's done.
On each floor is a trash room and recycling room. So there's recycling cans, then there's a trash chute which goes down to the cellar.
So how's it gonna get out of the cellar?
the porter.
The porter,
Elevator?
Off the elevator?
Yeah.
The garbage?
well,
I don't think so.
it's, how does any other apartment building get the trash out of the cellar? I've built many new apartment buildings with trash chutes, collection.
Put down a trash chute or a dumbwaiter or something?
Well, this, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if necessary, let's say, the porter can carry the bags out, it's not such a big deal. Maybe they weigh 30 pounds, 25 pounds, maybe 10 or 12 of them at most. That's what he's getting paid for, let him go out there and do it.
So the garbage will be stored in a dumpster?
And then
the
closed
enclosure in
dumpster at the
back.
end of the driveway.
So I guess the question is, will a dumpster, they're not gonna roll a dumpster out down the
No,
driveway?
no,
So
no.
the question is, if the village does provide garbage pickup, you pay for that.
Yeah,
And if that's the case, how will we pick that up? So we can consult with the DPW and see how they want to do that.
okay, thank you.
If that's practical for they will not back up the driveway.
Okay,
Insurance purposes, they won't do that.
makes sense. Okay, we'll work that out.
It's a smaller than average garbage truck, is that what you said?
Well, for a dumpster, they would need a large truck. We do have a smaller vehicle that, lifts the smaller containers up
Right.
mechanically, but that means you need those smaller containers.
Right.
Right, which is fine.
Okay.
So
We'll work on that.
we can discuss that with the
Yeah.
DPW and see what they want to do, and what they would suggest.
Okay, thank you.
So then, if the garbage truck were to come up and collect the trash from the dumpster, is it able to turn
No.
into the parking lot? How would it get out? Because they're not allowed to back up.
Well, if they're not,
That's a recycling truck as well.
well, sure, if you have a small truck, he may be able to make a turn, you're saying?
But yeah, I mean, the
The smaller truck could.
Oh, right.
right,
Yeah.
parking
If he
diagram.
backs in, he could go back into that spot and turn around and go back out again.
What's the height under the building?
10 feet, 10 feet to the opening.
To the archway is 10 feet.
Yeah, the archway is 10 feet.
But he wouldn't have to, I mean, go back to this over here, Chris?
What's that?
He could go back to that. They wouldn't have to go near the building, is what I'm saying. He could go in there and somehow turn around. We'd have to work it out in particulars with the,
All right, sounds good. You'll take that as a
The
follow-up.
dimensions of the truck to accommodate it.
Any other questions on the site plan? If not, I'll ask Mr. Vesalati to pull up the massing and the facade view of your drawings.
Oh, just one more thing?
Sure.
Before we leave the site plan. The vault, I think that's great that you've added the vault for the transformer at the front. We can get an idea of where that's gonna be. And I agree with you that you don't need to go through the full design and detail of the vault right now. But I think that the site plan will probably benefit from looking at some of the requirements that Con Ed has for separations from landscaping or any other clearances there may be, because that'll have an impact.
okay,
Yeah,
sure.
and that'll have an impact on the site plan, the way the building looks from the street.
Right. We'll talk to them again. Don't want me moving around like this, I have a bad knee. So-
Okay.
So
Stay-
massaging it as I'm
Oh,
talking.
okay.
Sean and I were just talking about how you may want to look at, or you probably should look at right now, what a cable company like Verizon or Altice may require too for bringing in communications.
This is the front elevation, obviously. The one building is 10 foot further back at where the front doors are. Spa is, the health club is right there. Now, one of your consultants had said that my facade is so dissimilar with the other buildings on the block, and I don't agree with that, because when we look at the streetscape, every building on that block has a gable. We have gables. Every building on that block has balconies and terraces. We have balconies and terraces. So I'm not sure what he's reaching for.
It's a very flat facade, whereas the other residents on Beekman have porches and bump outs and,
Well, we did break the building up and push it, back. So you don't have a 40-foot, 45-foot wide building, it's in half. So you have that big break. Like over there, you can see, we have the balconies on that over there. So we do break up the facade, we do have the gables, we do have the terraces. And to do the same thing twice, just 10 feet further back, is not gonna achieve anything.
can you put back the street view?
Streetscape or the elevation?
Yes, the streetscape, just to compare it to the other, other buildings.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify. Could you just clarify the statement you made about a consultant said that the facade was
Dissimilar and et cetera. Well, these are from your consultant's reviews.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you have the right.
Well, this is the latest ones we have,
Yeah,
and I don't know which one it is, but
would you like me to read it for you?
what's that?
Would you like me to read it for you?
Sure. You have
It
it.
says the planning board will still need to exercise its ARB mandate as to excessive dissimilarity of the facade with the others along this stretch of Beekman Avenue.
Right.
Right.
So he's saying it's dissimilar.
No,
No, am I
no,
reading it
I'm
wrong?
saying that the ARB needs to exercise
Oh,
its,
the ARB, okay.
it's just power, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, so clarifying that statement. Okay.
Yeah, actually, this monitor actually looks a lot better for some reason. If you can close the side panels. So I would say like the rest of the homes on Beekman feel similar in character as far as, front porches that extend the full width of the building. I appreciate that you've changed the roof design to be more consistent with the other homes. But I still don't think that your facade design is in character with that section of Beekman.
What, if I can ask, would you want to see? You're speaking as the architectural review board then?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have something in mind that you would want to see, that we can change to satisfy people?
Did you consider porches that extend across the entire
Well,
width?
the problem with that would be is that one building is set back 10 foot from the other building. So the one person would have a very big porch. We could look at that, extending it across, but it would be more of a real porch.
Yeah, I mean,
terrace.
even if you had two separate porches, because I don't know, I guess it's the bedrooms and the living room.
Yeah, on the left is the living room and the right is the bedrooms. Okay. We can look at that, bring it across the whole front. We could bring it across and we could set it back too, so it's not like a 5-foot terrace and then a 15-foot terrace.
Yeah. How would you describe the style of this design?
No particular style. Yeah, it's what we've been doing to try to make it blend in with the neighborhood.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Does anyone else have any other comments?
Can I ask you,
Sure.
are you planning on excavating down to set that?
Well, there was some discussion of retaining walls and things like that,
Is
yes.
that, because it looks like from the street elevation,
Right.
the road slopes down, everything is drawn basically flat. So is it really at that level, or is it going to be raised up?
Well, it's gonna, well, from what I understand, you know, for the limitation of what, the 45-foot height is from the top of the curb to the roof line. So that's what we've been working with and trying to make it fit within that. So we took into account, it will be up a little bit from, you know, some of the sidewalk, et cetera.
We have to get handicap accessibility into the front, so we can't raise the front level, we can't put steps going up there in front.
And it would then pierce the required height.
And have you thought about how that would affect the adjoining properties by lowering that grade? Yet, I mean, just, I know
No.
it's still on their property.
What are the proposed materials on the facade?
Excuse me?
What are the proposed materials on the facade?
It's gonna be hardy board and some Aztec materials for the fascias and the window trim and things like that. And then we had a little, you know, faux stone up into on the first floor, up to the bottom of the sills of the first floor windows.
Okay. Have you considered making the front entrance a little bit more gracious and kind of,
Oh, what I see around town, like this town, other towns when I drive around, everybody's got this shed-style roof with a standing seam roof. You know, like that roof would not be asphalt, it would be a standing seam copper roof,
okay?
or the like that, yes.
And is it just I don't know the name of the design, but
Shed.
it's a shed roof. There won't be any columns?
No,
or-
there's columns right there.
There are?
Yeah, columns, you can see either side of the doorway. See the columns?
I see, the white
With a light
posts.
fixture.
Okay.
Like I said, I've noticed quite a few around.
All right, well, it looks like there's more work to do in terms of the meeting with the fire department and the DPW, as well as consulting with the utilities, both for telecom as well as Con Ed. So, do you have any other questions for the planning board or our consultants?
No, we'll continue, we'll meet with these other people, discussing the utility companies, et cetera, and see what we have to do to accommodate them. And we'll, once again, come up with another elevation or two.
Okay.
See-
Are they satisfied with the reduction in the size of the building?
I think that allows for the green space in the back, so
It really
that's,
does.
that's a nice feature. It's your discretion as far as how many units
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can
obviously,
fit.
by reducing it from 15 to 12, there's a financial loss,
Yep,
but it will make the property that much better.
yep. Okay, good.
Okay, so we'll get back to you for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a quick
Yes.
question, and I mean, I do want to acknowledge the modifications you've made. I think they're all in the right direction, and the things are looking a lot better than when we last saw it. This is just a question of clarification about the roof and its use, because prior you had public space up there, but now that you have the green space in back, are you not contemplating
They
anything on the
still-
roof? Or
We are still contemplating using the roof for some minimal recreation, sitting down on the table.
right?
Okay, I thought I read somewhere that you decided there wasn't sufficient space up there to,
Well, originally, to achieve, I don't know, the 1,500 square feet we needed, up there, because we had no room on the site to really come near that, so we would have to take all 1,500 square feet up on the roof. Now that we have 4,000 square feet at grade, there would be a minimal amount of use of the roof.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Heating and cooling systems, have you mentioned them already, and I just don't
I'm
remember?
not sure.
Okay.
Heating and cooling, you have any idea what you want to do? Mitsubishi?
Probably do that, probably Mitsubishi.
So a split system, or
Yes,
electrified?
system, we do a lot of that. It's what everybody wants. And now I understand, I haven't seen it, because people sometimes find the evaporator offensive, it's up too high, it's too big. You're coming out with something down low, almost like a radiator, without having it up there, it works from below. So I haven't seen it yet, but it's something new that they came out with.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Yes, miss. Thank you.
Okay, 19 Cedar Street. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Williamson Movers. I'm the architect for this project. And we're back this month again to continue the presentation along with some revisions that we made based on comments from the board. To start off with, this application is going to remain as a residential application. 3-car garages are going to remain as is for use of the property owners. So I'm going to actually flip to the other site plans. One of the comments was, well, let's start with the easy one, which was the tree. So we're going to keep the tree, the existing tree that's there, and we'll provide some curb
The one and
around
only,
there
yeah.
and some planting to pretty it up. We are going to do some test pits along near the tree, so we'll see exactly what condition it's in at the time. Other than that, we also talked about in a little while, I think we submitted a planting site plan. But the other change that was referenced in the planning advisor was the height. So I spoke to the owner about it, and it's just like the letter I submitted. It's not cost prohibitive. It's cost prohibitive for him. It's going to be $50,000 per box, plus the basement cost.
Right.
So instead, what we did was raise the first floor just under a foot. So now the basement apartment is really just over 3 feet below grade. So
Okay.
you could call it a garden apartment. So it eliminated one step going down these stairs, which actually helped along the basement where the door goes in. It was a little tight. So we did have to add another stair going up to the main level. So because of that, I sort of moved the entrance from the sidewalk a little bit north and widened it. So the entrance for both units are going to be a little further north. I believe that was the change there. And then again, the planting, switch the plans around. Actually, I did pave a little bit around that tree, which is where the garbage is going to be. I think the old plan showed lawn. So in front of the house, the sidewalk, we're going to provide a block wall, which is similar to both neighbors. They have a curb, a block wall separating the sidewalk from the property itself. So we'll continue that theme, and we'll have some boxwoods along the back of that wall, probably with a low fence separating it. And then along the driveway, we'll have additional plantings. I have the schedule up here. And then along the inside walkway, there'll be different types of low-lying plants to dress up the entryways. I believe, and then the rest is really just existing paved area, so this is the only landscape part of it. And those, I think, really the major changes. I don't think we tweaked the apartments at all,
Right.
other than the stairs.
Okay.
Were the windows in the basement apartment able to increase due to
Yes,
the?
the front window did increase a little bit as well. And actually, when we get into that, I think the rear also might come a little bit bigger. Although the property does slope up a little bit, so really it's the basement apartment living room window is going to be a little bit bigger.
Okay. And when are you expecting your stormwater design to be
Right,
available?
so the engineers, I think, spoke with James earlier. He's going to have that submission by next meeting, the comments that the consulting engineer had. And
Mr.
they'll address
Natarelli?
all those. I don't think he had an issue with any of those. It's just a matter of really dealing with the existing storm drain that's out front. Got to figure out where it goes. He cleaned it out. It's actually cleared out right now. And there's a pipe that comes off the southern part, but he's not sure if it goes down to the catch basin or is there a pipe that leads to it. So there's some investigation that needs to be done.
Or it could be a dry well too. Whatever it is, I mean, if that's impacted, that's gonna be picked up as well and maintained. You mentioned a test pit before. Is he
Yeah.
gonna do that before the next meeting? And you should.
I asked him whether it's gonna be something that the homeowner is gonna sub out or is he gonna do it. He said he'll be doing it. I'm gonna ask him the time frame, but I'll mention it to him.
Okay. And you mentioned that you're gonna pave somewhere in the back too. Could you just?
Actually, no, it's just, it's not paved. No, it's not paved. Around the tree, just to dress it up, we're gonna curb around it. Oh, I think you meant this area around the tree.
Yeah.
That's gonna be,
That whole triangle.
that's where the garbage is gonna go, so I figured instead of having a lawn there.
It's gonna kill the tree.
Yeah, that'll,
Are you?
that'll be part of the consideration of this.
Yeah. I mean, what are you planning for that surface? Actual asphalt pavement?
No, that's gonna be brick, whatever we use up front, brick pavement, or some sort of paver.
You have to consider the root system of that tree. You want to look into pervious pavers or something that maybe works a little better with the tree.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that I am concerned if you pave around the tree, like how much open surface area is
I'm
there.
not trying to sabotage the
No,
tree.
no, but I think that's a really good recommendation, to try to make a good effort to keep the tree.
Yeah, I mean, he may even do some sort of gravel. I mean, we'll discuss it with him. I don't even think I mentioned that to him. So.
Yeah, given, that you have so much pavement with the driveway already, it would be good if you could find another area to put the garbage instead of paving around the tree, because there's...
I mean, like I mentioned, all this is paved. There is a fence here. I just don't want to put it in the middle.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
you could tuck it in the corner somewhere, but that's a long walk from the house.
Yeah, it's a long, long paved driveway.
That's true, but that's not, they're going somewhere.
William, is the basement apartment, the bedroom that's in the back, does that require a window well?
That's a good point. So because we're raising it a little bit, it may be, I don't want to call it a window well, but it may be a curb.
Is that gonna be in that back area too?
You're talking about this window?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I showed something there, right? Yeah.
Mr. Smith had a comment.
Yeah, on your landscape plan, I think you were provided copies of some of the materials that the village uses as references for native plantings.
That's what I
Just-
used for this.
Okay, I thought I may have seen a couple non-native species, but just
I'll
check it
double check,
again.
but I'm pretty.
Yeah, okay. Just as
Yeah,
long as
Pam
it's checked.
sent me that list.
I know Erin will check, and she will let you know if
Yeah, I think some of them are cultivars, which are probably acceptable. So would you be ready for an
Right,
August
so-
19th?
Public hearing. That's what we're hoping for.
That's what you're hoping for, okay.
Suggestion, we were discussing before, if we cannot get a quorum for that, would the board want to move a meeting to early September? Suggested date would be September 9th, which would be the second Thursday. Assuming everybody would be back from vacation by then.
Assuming we're gone.
Those who are away.
Huh?
Those who are away.
Yeah, I'll be back by then. You'll be back? Yeah. Yeah, that's feasible, so we just need to check
couldn't hear what he said. It wouldn't be the norm, you were saying it earlier, September
Well,
meeting?
we have a possible problem getting a quorum
Right.
for the August meeting, so the suggestion was made, could we do a special meeting on the 9th, which would be early in September, the first available Thursday, after Labor Day.
We'll be notified. There is.
Yeah, we'll let you know the date, but, so if we can't,
Yeah.
we'll bump it to that date, everyone's okay with that?
Yep, well, I'll pencil it in. Okay, so how do we move, given we don't know the date? We move to have a public hearing on August 19th or September 9th for this 19 Cedar Street proposed two-family residence site plan approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, so
Thank
we'll
you.
see you in August or September.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, have a good summer. Okay, 14 Clinton Street, a proposed two-family residence.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Nice to see everybody in person.
Yes.
Okay, so here we are again presenting 14 Clinton Street. What we have done is take all of your recommendations into account. As you remember, this is a two-family that is being rebuilt within a C district, which is commercial, so we need to go to you in order to redo the building. Some of our, bullet points is like we have in the new site plan that was presented, we have aligned the house with the row of houses on the left and also the houses on the right. We do know that on the right directly it's a repair shop. Also, we have raised the first story. First, in the beginning, we had some sort of a basement unit that used to go a few steps down, and everybody was telling us like all the houses in the streetscape has porches, at least most of them. So what we have done is proposing a porch, an open porch across the front facade, going up a few steps. So it doesn't break anything, it's very traditional looking, just like the rest of the houses. And then we go up here in this schematic 3D, you would see you would go into this porch, and then we have one dwelling at the first story. Before it was basement, first and second floor, now would be considered a 3-story with no basement. And there it's a single dwelling on the first floor and then a duplex unit, which would be the second and third floor. We are proposing the footprint within the same parameters as the house that was there, although of course we're proposing a new construction with hardy plank exterior, which is more fire retardant. We are proposing no windows on the right, but we could do some treatment on the assembly of the wall as to prevent the passage of fire, God forbid, in case of one, like the one that happened 2 years ago, right? And, we're proposing something very similar to what's around gable roof as all the neighboring structures, although we're thinking we can, have a higher peak now that we have done some 3D mass studies. Also, the materials, we're having hardy plank night gray siding with ASIC white trims around the windows, double hung windows, my front porch, and at the rear we're proposing double deck too. From the third floor coming down to the second and down to the rear yard. It's a very narrow lot, so the rear yard, it's narrow, but at the same time it's very deep, so the rear yard is basically all they have, so we want to make sure that everybody's able to, take advantage and
Access it.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
And also, we're proposing some, skinny pine trees along the side of
I'm sorry, what trees?
the pine trees.
Pine
But,
trees.
that they would grow at least 7 feet or so, because even though our fences could only be 6 feet, we have this repair shop right there on the left, so we want to mask that up a little bit. So we're facing with a condition that not only your building would not be allowed by zoning, but also it's next to our repair shop, and the lot is smaller than, what it would need to be. It doesn't have the square footage, but we're trying to make something that, we're 100% sure that would improve the neighborhood, and also we're proposing a type of structure that it's, much more efficient and better looking than what was there before.
Yep. Okay, well, we appreciate the progress you've made. I think the porches that you've added to the front and the back certainly are more attractive. I think you took to heart Sean's comment to make the building, you had more vertical
Yes.
space to go. Did you say there were no windows on the right side?
On the right side facing the repair shop, we don't need them. We have, since we're along the property line, God forbid tomorrow somebody wants to build there, or, there's not such a thing as a zero lot line buildings, but this is almost a zero lot line building. So despite the fact that there's no building right there to the left, we have decided not to do any windows along the right side, because it's basically facing the driveway of the repair shop.
Mhm.
So we have accommodated or offer habitable rooms, and our bedroom, kitchen, living room on the left side of the building, and leaves only the hallway to be able to access those rooms, and the stair on the right side as to, it's not the most pleasant view you want to have from your bedroom, somebody fixing a car, right?
Yeah,
Especially their expression sometimes.
well, it depends on the car.
It depends on the guy fixing it, because if it's my guy, maybe you don't, but he does a good job, so I shouldn't be picking on him.
Okay. What we did ask that you show the massing of the building in comparison to the other homes on that
Okay.
street. So we see the one home, but,
The one directly on the left, yeah.
but we don't see the entire streetscape.
Okay, do you have more or less a distance that you would like us to, send
Well-
out to you? Probably 3 houses and left and right? It's a very small building, so I guess,
That would be helpful, because just that picture in the top center,
yes,
you
this
s-
is the
you s-
montage.
your building is, much higher.
I know.
And so it's kind of sticking out relative to the building on the left. It would be good to see how it
Yeah, a
looks
couple
with all
of
the
them,
ones.
and I agree, there's a couple of, there's one specifically that I was taking a look at, that it's like 3 or more to the left that would have a somehow similar height. But the thing here also, it's an R5, so we're like 45 feet. By the time we raise it, it's tricky, because you have, in order to be feasible for my clients, if we do something as small as it was before, then, it wouldn't work with their necessities. So we're gonna bring, we can send you like the streetscape, so you can see some heights of the other buildings on both sides. Because having something substantially smaller wouldn't work that well. Sorry.
Did you have a question relative to the exact height?
she said, yeah, that if it's 45 feet, then it's fine.
What was that?
No, I had a question earlier about the height, and
Okay.
but if your zone is 45 feet max, then yes, then
we're
you're
at
totally
41
fine.
feet, because we bump it up. Again, we had some sort of a basement as to not be too high, but at the same time, by raising it up and still be like a duplex and a single bedroom. Otherwise, my units would only be around, 450 square feet, which is pretty narrow. So we want to find something that is balanced between, how would it look, but also that it would be feasible for them to develop.
Yeah, I think if you, the buildings you're referring to as you come off of Cortlandt, there are buildings that are taller in
Yes,
height, and
yes.
then those two that are shorter before you get to your lot.
Yes, and
so-
this one is, despite it's, it's a single story and it's all the way in the back, so it doesn't help me that much in terms of scale of, height. And then this is only 2-story with no attic space. It probably has a drop down, but my maximum allowed would be, as of right, would be 45, and we're only at 4. And if we do as the middle of the beach, then we'll be only like around 37 or 36. Although I'm even thinking picking up the roof a little bit more, but now that you mentioned, the height in respect to the rest of the street line, then, that may be a consideration.
Yep.
One question I had, now that you've lost your basement, is just where you anticipate laundry and mechanical to be located.
What we are proposing, it's on all electrical buildings, so we would do split units for the bedrooms with a condenser on the outside. Could be, along the right property line where we have our pine trees and bushes masking the repair shop on the right. And in terms of water heating, we are going to be proposing electrical water heater, which could be easily heated in one part of the closet, because this doesn't need, combustion air or a flue or anything like that.
So it'd be
Within each unit.
within each unit
Yes,
will have their,
Within each unit.
and there'll be no laundry on site?
No, if I can talk to my client if they want to provide a independent washer dryer stackable. We can definitely put it in one of the units. So all of these things, they are pretty compact nowadays, but they take space. That's why we want to make sure that they get as much as they can with the conditions they have. Which, when they got this non-compliant building, and then the fire happened, so, for them to be feasible, we want to make something that works for everybody. But at the time you start putting in the dishwasher, the electric heater, and no basement and all that stuff, the space starts shrinking.
Can I add something, Ira?
Yes.
So as far as washer dryer, there's either one or two ways that.
I'm sorry. We have the names for the record, please.
I'm sorry, I'm Dina Alto. I'm the owner as well as I'm the contractor. So I'm doing a project right now in Yonkers and on 139. So we have two options. These are totally gas, up and down washer and dryer. So basically what I'm gonna do, either in the kitchen, and you open up a cabinet, it looks like it's actually a pantry. So either it can go in the kitchen, or it can go in the bathroom, because that's what I'm doing over at the other property as well.
Yes, yes.
So
So each
I
unit
guess I
basically
will.
would
That is
have their
something-
own independent.
Yes.
And I wasn't implying it needed to, it was just more a question of it is or
Yes,
isn't.
yes,
There's plenty
yes.
of apartments
So
where
that
they
is-
don't have
that is
it.
something that
Or it depends on your
I'm
price
doing.
point, what, obviously, what your
Also,
clientele.
something else I did want to add, I've been going back and forth. There are a few buildings on the street that are as high as this and even higher, and you actually have a cross street as well.
Right.
Because there's a few of the lighter gray buildings.
Yep.
And actually we have, across street I think it's 4, but if you start coming down, Loveland basically it's gonna be on the west side, right? You have the corners which are very big, then you have a couple that almost this height, and then you have the one next door that's short. Then of course you have the repair shop, and then going right down the block from that, there are ones that are getting bigger.
Okay. And could you introduce yourself as well?
Oh, my name is Jahaira Wolkes Colombo. I'm the architect who's designing.
Okay, thank you.
One question. What made you go all electric for a two-family house?
Yes, I think there's some issues going all around the
Con
city.
Edison?
Yes, with-
Con Edison's on a freeze right now.
Yes.
They,
I'm-
did
they're
Con
not
Edison
providing
push
gas.
for all electric house?
No, but we would have to wait until 2024 for them to even
for
entertain.
new
Yes, the gas.
services, yeah.
Because these are all the things that I've been looking into over the time that we've been working on
I'm
this.
surprised. They won't put gas in there.
You would put, right? But the thing
I work
is-
for Con Ed.
Then-
So that's why you gas. He wants
Okay,
everybody
so I'll
on
tell you
board.
what, wait, we'll do gas if you can guarantee us that they're gonna give us our line. Wait, right, Yara?
I'm actually very supportive of an all-electric building.
I think it's safer as
yeah.
well, to be honest.
Yeah. So, in terms of the infrastructure and the stormwater drainage and all of that.
I'm actually working with, I will tell you right now,
DR Pila,
DRP,
engineering.
and I'm dealing right now with Sarah and Jackie. So they're going to be coming and doing this for us.
I don't know who Sarah and Jackie are,
I
so,
think they did the One Ridge property.
Yes, they did.
okay. Okay,
I just had a small comment related to the layout or suggestion. I noticed you have, I think, the master bedrooms located on the front.
Mm-hmm.
I would just suggest you might want to flip it and have them in the back. It might mean changing how you have your bathrooms configured, but if, especially on the upper unit where you've got that balcony in the back, it just,
Yes, yes.
it would
that's-
seem like it
that
might be
makes a
appreciated
lot
more
of-
by the
yeah.
master bedroom.
Yeah, we can definitely take that suggestion into account. Here,
There-
okay.
there's also some inconsistencies in your drawings. So you have the two balconies and porches in the back. But there's no door to access them.
Oh, it's a sliding door.
Oh,
The way we
okay.
present is not a swing door, but a sliding door. Because it's by having the rear deck, I don't want to encroach too much into it. So,
Okay.
and I don't want to take out of
The space
the
inside
space
the
inside
room.
either. They don't look as nice and fancy as your French doors, but they get the work done. But they graphically in plan, sometimes they could get confused with windows, but they're actually sliding
Okay,
doors.
thank you. Did you have a question, Sean?
Yeah, can you clarify, you mentioned that there's not going to be a basement?
Yes, we're not gonna propose a
So
basement.
what would the foundation be? Is it on piers? Is it on a crawl space?
Well, it's gonna be crawl space. We're gonna have CMU around, and our span is not that wide. We would have ventilation and all that sort of access, but raising the structure is making it, a little bit pricey. So since we're not gonna have in the beginning, we wanted to have a basement to have some sort of garage or a recreation room, but since we cannot connect it interiorly that easy without basically dismantling the first floor unit because of the width that we have, the narrow width that we have, so it's not a feasible option. So since we cannot use it to park car, which would be something that would be more feasible for the people that are gonna rent it, then, it's not worth it, work on the excavation and all that stuff.
Because it appears from the elevation that your porch, your first floor is up
Yes.
7, 8 steps or so?
Yeah, for about 48 inches.
48 inches, and you're going to have to be down below the frost level another 36
So
inches.
yeah, so you already have a basement
You
there.
kind of have a basement.
The only thing is if it would be allowed to be combined as recreation only for the first floor unit, then I'm sure my client would
Yeah,
consider
I
it.
mean,
You already have the
there's
you
no
already have the
objection.
basement.
I think you're
Okay.
building it anyway, you know what I'm saying, so you may want to consider what you
Okay,
do with
so
that
yeah,
space.
that's definitely true. So you have 4 feet off and 4 below, so go an extra foot and have storage
And
there.
then my second question is the attic, what's going to be within that space?
What we are going to be doing is like a drop-down ladder, and, because that's another thing. When you have 3 stories in a basement, it would be considered a 4 stories. So if sprinklers, partial sprinkler kicks in, then, budget-wise,
You're going to need a sprinkler system anyway.
on a 2-family.
on any new structure.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt for a minute. I do know because I'm doing one now, and then once it hits above the 3 flights, then they're making you do partial. Once you hit the board, that's why I took out the top floor from the other one.
No, you need a sprinkler system, it's required by our code.
By the town.
Okay.
Yeah, any new
Can I ask you
construction.
why we weren't notified that?
Any new construction.
Any new construction,
Okay.
also,
Sleepy
that's a supplemental amendment you got.
Correct.
Okay.
That was done by,
The local municipality.
Yeah, we
correct.
were never notified though, so that's something you gotta have. No, you requiring partial.
No, fully sprinkled.
Full.
so we can have our basement basically.
Might as well have the next
You're
floor.
building both of
Go
them
for it.
anyway,
Okay,
so I would just
okay.
allocate
So
whatever
treat,
space.
that's why, since every village and town is different, in, R3, if you're not 4, so that's why you either have,
But
either
Your
propose.
3 stories wood frame anyway, so you need it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, well, that's true.
Besides our code.
Okay,
Okay, so you might as well add.
the basement, yeah. Okay, perfect.
All right, so again, thank you for incorporating our feedback. We'll see you at a subsequent planning board meeting as you advance
Okay,
your
so for the
design.
next time, you would like to see some sort of the streetscape and,
Yeah, I think the streetscape and then, any of the
storm management.
stormwater
Okay.
management and
Okay.
infiltration. And also, another point is, as you're planting your shrubs and your trees, they need to be native species.
Okay,
There's a list on the Westchester County website for native plantings.
Madam Chair,
okay,
actually Pam can send you
okay.
reference material.
Oh, Pam,
We've-
that's you, Pam?
Yeah.
Oh. We sent 100 emails, but never
I know.
saw face to face.
Oh, that's
No, never.
Yeah, she's more important than anybody else.
Yes, yes.
Very pretty too, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Edge on Hudson Block OP Townhomes, Phase 2.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Peter Chafkin from Biddle Real Estate Ventures. Before Andy Tung comes and begins to introduce you to the O&P site plan, I wanted to just take a minute with Kate's help from Cook Fox. Earlier today, we're often before you talking about site plans, talking about all of our future plans. And as I was walking the site today with Greg, we've actually finished a portion of the waterfront open space. And I wanted to just share with you to see how, the real product, which you may not have seen yet, is turning out. How we've just integrated, the first plaza that goes directly against the water, and it actually shows where the Block H building will be in a minute. But I just think this is such a spectacular view. Obviously very proud of it, and I think it's turning out great. So before we go into the rest of it, I just start off by showing you something that we've done.
It is beautiful. I actually specifically rode my bike out to take a look, and it is spectacular. So
Okay.
congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, Andy, it's your show.
I don't know if I can top that, Peter. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Andrew Tung from Divinity Tung Schwalbe, here with our Edge on Hudson team and Block OP. We come before you for our initial discussion of a site plan and subdivision for the balance of OP. As you may recall, earlier this year, we obtained site plan approval for what we call Townhomes 1, the first 20 townhomes along Palisades. Those are shown here in black and white. We've filled out the balance of the OP parcel with 89 more townhomes that would make for a total of 109 in OP. The plan is similar in nature to a plan we showed you back in November during the OP1 discussion to see how that might look when it was completely built out. We've had the benefit of some 8 months of further design since then and have made certain refinements that I'll review in brief tonight. We have received both your engineering and planning comments recently, and we're looking forward to addressing those over the next few weeks. Our primary goal is to give you a quick overview of the plan and to obtain any comments that you may offer at this time so that we can address them all together. So this plan is color-coded in a similar manner as the plan we showed in November. One of the things that we looked at is offering a variety of widths of townhomes that would both change the appearance between units as well as give broader options in terms of sizes and features, architectural features within the units. So the widths range from 20 foot to 24, 20 to 22 to 24 to 28. And the 28s, color-coded in pink, are particularly located along Hollows Pass. A provision of the special permit was that there be actually was it the special permit or the secret findings, 2007 secret findings, there be a mix of 3 and 4 story units along Hollows Pass, along the waterfront open space to vary the profile as you were looking towards the development. So the pink show the likely 3-story units which have a broader footprint. There are 21 that are shown along Hollows Pass, and 10 of them, the end units of each of the 5 blocks of townhomes, or nearly half, would be 3 stories. So there would be a variety of height, a variation in height along that frontage. Otherwise, the plan is similar in that the units wrap around and either face on the perimeter streets or on Tappan Zee Park. There are a few interior units, not unlike in Block J. We have introduced Sleepers Haven to be built to village standards and treated in the same way in terms of sidewalks, street trees not shown on this plan, and parallel parking on both sides. And the center line alignment of Sleepers Haven does meet both Palisades and Hollows Pass at 90 degrees, as per Village Code doesn't require 90 degrees, but requires close to right angle. So in this plan, you may recall that with the first phase, there was a temporary connector drive that ran along the back of the building so that you could enter from both sides. With this plan and the introduction of Sleepers Haven, that temporary drive would be removed. As I mentioned, Sleepers Haven would run through the site and could be either dedicated or not dedicated, depending on discussions as we move forward. Also, this plan provides for the elimination of full driveways from approximately half the units. So some of the units, like the Townhome 1 units, have 18-foot driveways in the back. Other units have what we call driveway aprons that would be from 5 to 8 foot in depth, so you couldn't park in the back, but they would provide ample turning to get into the 2-car garage that is in each of the townhomes. This was done to balance between the need to provide the wide fire access drive on one side of the units, either in the street or within the interior drives, without making for a full 26, 18-foot width of pavement across the back. It also allows us to pull the units back a little bit more from the perimeter, as was discussed during the OP1 approval process, to allow for, if a resident wanted, a front porch or front patio between the patio and the front property line. Similar to the other buildings along Legend Drive, in OP1, Block J, Block E, and Block I. The 19 townhomes fronting on Legend would require a variance for height, as those are proposed at 4 stories. So we would look to go to the zoning board to increase the permitted height from 42 to 48 feet within that 300-foot zone off the railroad track. That's essentially the plan. Where, as I mentioned, we did receive the engineering comments and the planning comments from Mr. Smith, engineering from Woodard and Curran. We're looking to address those as we move forward, and we're happy to take any comments or questions that you may have.
And sorry, and I could also say, earlier today, we met with Sean, and he raised a question from the fire department about some concern over the driveway aprons and people potentially still parking in the driveway aprons, and maybe that creates an impingement on the fire lane. So we're aware of the concern, and we're brainstorming on some ideas that we can come up with to put it mildly, discourage that from happening, or make that, you know, impractical for someone to do that. And what our plan would be is, after we compile our list, we'd like to sit down with you, Sean, and then, you know, if you think we've kind of got a good plan, sit with the fire chief as well to hopefully address that. I mean, certainly address that before our next meeting.
In terms of the variance you're looking for those townhouses along Legend Drive, I know it was a variance that you got in Black J, and then it propagated to those first 20, and there was a concern by the zoning board that there were just going to be further requests to raise the balance of those along Legend Drive. Is there any alternative, since you are varying the height of the townhouses along Hollows Pass? Is it absolutely necessary to have those be at a different height?
I think so. I think it would look, I think there's a very good design-based logic to vary the height along Hollows Pass, and we want to respect that. I think, candidly, if we dropped all of these units to 3 stories, yet this is 4 stories and all of these are 4 stories, I'm not sure. I think it would look a little odd, perhaps. So, you know, when we were in front of the zoning board last time and they asked us, would we be coming back, we said almost certainly requesting the same variance for, you know, the units that would be plotted against along Legend Drive. And they asked us at the time, again, my recollection, they asked us, well, why aren't we asking for the full variance now? We said, unfortunately, we don't have a site plan. We don't have an active site plan for it, so we don't think we can ask you for that variance just quite yet.
Yep, okay.
What's the height comparison to the Block I buildings?
It's virtually the same. The heights are within 1 or 2 feet of 48.
Okay.
Personally, I don't think I'd like to see you cutting down on the driveways, messing with the parking, because we call them 2-car garages, right? You have no attic and you have no basement to store anything. And when I go through there, or the garages are, you know what I'm saying? They're used for storage. Everybody's got a bike in them, barbells, carriages. So you lose at least a parking space. Every place I see, even in Tarrytown's development, everybody's got only 1 car in a 2-car garage. So you're losing a spot there, and if you don't have your spot out in front of the garage, you're out on the road. That's my only concern. I hate to see you losing any parking.
Well, I think you're right. I think in a lot of situations, people are using the garage for multiple purposes, because in addition to that garage, they also have 2 spaces in their driveway to park. And I think, you know, for some people, there's absolutely no question. Some people will want the 2-car garage and 2 parking spaces outside, which is why I think it's, originally we were contemplating only driveway aprons, no full driveways here, but after we coordinated it with the fire requirements, it turned out, as Andy already described to you, that we need, that half of the units basically needed the driveways in order to accommodate that space. And so as we talk to the home builders who are looking at this section to build the homes here, they look at it and they're actually happy that some of the units have and some of the units don't have driveways, because the units will be priced differently and it'll give the buyers more choice, because while there's absolutely no question, there are some folks who, like you said, will be using half or the whole garage for storage and will be parking outside. There are other folks who are maybe only going to have 1 car and they don't care about it, or there were people who will look at it and they're buying their unit. Maybe they think they're going to be getting a deal on a unit without the driveway spaces compared to a unit with the driveway spaces. And it creates extra what we call segmentation, which means sort of widens the demand pool. The other thing I'll point out is the way that Andy's drawn this. I believe all of the units that only have driveway aprons are the units that also front out on the street. So those units have on-street parking in front of their front doors, whereas it's the interior ones that face internal green spaces that don't have the driveway, or that have the full driveways, because they don't have an ability for someone to park right in front of it.
I guess I just hate to see where you don't have enough parking, because I always say about having, I know my own house, somebody comes to visit, you have, I have a garage, I have this parking space, and then as soon as somebody comes to visit, maybe I had to park down around the corner. So, it's just a concern.
Right.
I'm gonna buy a $2 million house.
Please God, $20 million.
$2 million.
You have 2. Yeah. So look, you raised some very valid points that we've been discussing and debating internally, and we've heard, obviously, representatives of the village and some of their comments on things like that. As we started off saying, this is just kind of like a quick update for you, so that we just want to let you know we're still progressing with it. We obviously have the bigger issue with the fire lane, so we're dealing with a number of those issues together. Really don't want to press a particular design right now until we get a little bit more of a process going. So happy to get the feedback on a preliminary basis, but we're not really pressing this now. So give us an opportunity to digest some of the comments that you brought up, both by Sean, and have an opportunity to meet with the fire department, and then something's going to change. So I don't want to get too caught up in what we've got as a presentation right now. We just came in to kind of give you a brief overview and an update, and then we'll be back after we kind of really get the rest of the team on board, both the public side and the private side, and let us get another iteration of this done, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. It seems like the left side, those blue townhomes in the middle, on the left. Yeah,
Your
right there.
left.
Yes, my left. Those units are going to be looking out at someone's rear of their building and their driveway. If there's some other configuration that allows for some more green space, because that side really has no green space, it's going to be all street and driveway, right?
And we did see
Actually,
some of those review comments, and yeah, that's things that we're taking into consideration. So again, we have read the reports, we have had discussions, you and I, Sean and the group, and we're digesting that and trying to figure out what the next iteration will look like. It'll certainly be different than this, but we'll definitely get back on that. We hear you loud and clear.
I'd be
And
curious
specifically,
too.
Sean, in our meeting today, he gave us a really good suggestion on how to address what you just raised.
Okay.
And we're going to study it because I think it's what we're going to do, but we're going to study it. It was a good suggestion.
Awesome.
I was just going to say, I'd be curious to know how those that are already living in Block J currently use those common open spaces, and there's any lessons to be learned about what they like, what they wish they had to take into consideration when designing those similar spaces now.
That's a good suggestion. We'll see if we can reach out.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll be back as we.
I just had one other question logistically. If you can explain how the alleyways work in terms of egress and, I noticed some were emergency access only. So is it contemplated that people would mainly be entering, exiting out of the same spot on each block? Or is there like a encouraged
showed-
entrance and an encouraged exit, or it could be any of the above?
We have the opportunity, because of the interior layout, to exit at various points.
Okay.
And what we learned in Block J is that you don't want to give people too many choices, because then they're going from different.
Right, I was gonna say, they're not, are they one-way alleys or
No.
two-way? Okay.
No, they're all two-way. So right now, we show two entrances to both sides,
Mhm.
and we show an emergency access.
Right.
That
so
was
the
one of the
emergency-
things that the fire department asked when we took away one of the entries in Block J, to leave it so it's
Right.
possible for emergency access. So that's what this shows here.
Okay.
That's what this shows. So there'll be at least two, plus, in this case, another emergency access. And we did not, for instance, at this point, make this connection.
Right.
It could also be, so,
But everything's bi-directional. That's-
yes,
okay.
yes. Go anywhere.
And are the floor plans similar to the first phase of Block OP?
They would be.
Dimensionally, most likely, these units, I think we're envisioning are a little bit deeper than the other ones, but as to the specific floor plan, we haven't selected the home builder who's going to be building it yet. And
Gotcha.
so of the two leading contenders, both of them have slightly different visions, but, you know, all commercial and will be nice.
And so I guess the last question I think I had was related to the timeline of seeing those floor plans and elevations of the buildings. What's the projected timeline? Or?
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to be in a position by the time we're in front of you in the full September meeting. I'm hoping that we'll have selected our home builder partner and we'll have all of that for you. But so that's my hope, and we'll see if we can get there.
All right.
Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, next up is Phase 2, Block H, an amended site plan presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Rick Cook from Cook Fox Architects. Kate from Cook Fox also, and our local Sleepy Hollow resident. Also going to try to get the presentation up on the monitor, and we have boards also. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We're here to follow up on our previous meeting of June 17th and an amended site plan approval application from July 8th. We've received your comments, and today we'll go through the comments from the last time we were here and the comments that we've received from both you and from Mr. Smith. So thank you so much for your time. We'll jump right into the issues that we've revised, a quick review of what we had last time, and then what we've revised to address your comments. What's the same is we're Block H, right there on Westward Drive between Horseman's and Lighthouse Landing. This is the original site plan approval by Hart-Howerton. What's important about it is it's part of the waterfront district. So the waterfront district spoke specifically about contemporary waterfront living. And this is the outline of that block. We are currently proposing 104 dwelling units for a total floor area of 306,227 square feet. 306,227 square feet. The total number of units, 104 units, is what we're proposing currently on Block H. There's 13 one-plus bedrooms, 34 two-bedrooms, 38 two-plus bedroom units, 8 three-bedroom units, and 11 three-plus. That's the total of 104.
The chart that we have up here is about the leasable area for the retail at the roundabout, at the waterfront plaza, and the restaurant at the waterfront plaza. Okay. We focused the last time we were together on these 4 areas: the southwest plaza, we'll go next to the northeast plaza, talk about the westward drive where we're adding residential, and then over to Lighthouse Landing. So we'll do that same order that we did last time. Okay, first on the Southwest Plaza, this is the area that we really hope to be the anchor, right there at Horseman's and Westward Drive. So the next one, please, Kate. This is the image that we talked about last time, and there was some talk about the kind of indoor and outdoor dining, the idea of a loggia, an arcade, and there was some discussion about how we could improve it and provide more shade and have more different types of seating, essentially providing more shade and shadow so that people could have shelter and they could sit outside right on the river. So a couple ideas came up, and this is what we're proposing: some fixed shading element, canopy elements here that help create space at a lower scale off the plaza and off the sidewalk, and then these fixed shading elements up to scale down that double height. So I thought those were great recommendations, and this is what we're proposing to address those comments that you had the last time. And this is what it would look like in the overall then. We like the way it's scaled down, the 2-story structure, and brought it down. So we got both the 2-story structure and the lower scaled arcade. So we thought those are working well. We liked the comments. So this is our adjustment based upon your comments. I can keep talking or stop there and we can talk about this, whichever you prefer.
I think it's a nice feature. It's attractive and functional at the same time.
Good, thank you.
Yes, like it.
Thank you very much.
Just one quick question. Will we be able to get files of what you're showing us tonight that we haven't yet received sent to us? Because
Yes.
I know that wasn't part of the package we got, so yeah.
Yes, some of it's hot off the digital presses. So yes, we're happy to submit exactly what we're showing tonight. Thank you. Okay. Moving up to the northeast plaza, I'll review again what you saw last time and go through the comments and where we are. This is what we reviewed the last time, trying to create that tower, and we brought some printed boards to get the, you can see the difference in the printing, the warmth of the brick, and I'll talk a little bit of that versus the monitor. So it was a discussion last time. So we did some printed boards, so we had, depends on the resolution. But we had the tower, it wasn't quite right the last time. We originally came in with this, talking about those open spaces on the corner making the tower. And then we talked a little bit about how to refine that and get back to a marker on the corner, using those open spaces on the corner as the marker and getting a better tower reading. So this is a rendering of that. I think the next one will come up. So what we've done is frame this opening with these metal elements and run those all the way through vertically. Run that through that setback and puncture the horizontal line, so we have a little marker against the sky for the tower element. We've also opened that up in the corner so you see through to the sky. If we were moving around here and coming down Lighthouse Landing, you'd be looking through the corner, which I think would work well. And then we've brought in those shading elements also that are shown here on this side. They would also be on the southern side. So that would have a tower in 3-dimensional forms, an implied tower, while the brick facade is still being completed. We, after several iterations, ownership and the designers all thought that this was a nice compromise between getting a vertical element and getting the brick facade to turn the corner.
Rick, can you leave it on that
Sure.
for a second? Just, I don't want to interrupt because the true image is much richer, and I'm just wondering, Kate, if you can turn down the yeah, you can see much better.
Maybe we can just pass that around.
Sure.
I was going to say, turn down the brightness on here, maybe it'll affect that screen.
And also, we brought some brick samples tonight to talk about where we're headed with the materiality, because there was some, it looked a little gray on the monitor. So we printed boards so we can have those, and we'll come back to the materials in a minute. So The next, is okay, keep going? Okay, so the next is this westward drive, and you all brought up some very good points about the privacy off the sidewalk there. So the general point, go to the next one, please, is that there was a very long walk along westward in the approved master plan from the edge of the retail up at the roundabout until you got to the edge of the restaurant down here in westward. There was 235 feet of basically nothing happening but walking by parking. So we thought it would be really nice to have some townhouses and getting eyes on the street and activity on the street with these 3 townhouses, which cuts that walk between nothing and something in less than half. So we like that very much, and we came to you with a proposal for duplexes there. This is the image that we had last time, so looking at the Chicos up here in the roundabout, really cutting from this point until this point, cutting that distance down in half. And we had started the townhouses here, and there was some discussion about this, that townhouse right there, and the entry right there. So what we've done, are you showing the new one? What are you showing?
I'm showing the last one there.
Okay.
We were talking
No,
about
that's the new one. We haven't gotten to that yet.
okay.
Thank you, sir. But if you go to the next one, we're going to have, no, good. This is good. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So what we did was we flipped this townhouse, and we put the entry to it down here in the center. And so it allowed us to get a better buffer, and we have a decorative garden fence that comes along here, separating the sidewalk. This whole facade is set back at its closest point at 4 feet and moves away based upon the way the property line works. So this is no longer the entry to that unit. The entry to the unit is down there, and we've put this planted buffer to provide more privacy. The other thing we did was we changed the spandrel so this really reads more like a townhouse, a 2-story townhouse, which I think breaks up the massing on that facade and helped. And I think the point about providing more privacy from the sidewalk was really good. And if we go to the next one. If we go here, what we're doing now is bringing the sidewalk around and providing this decorative garden fence. Hopefully the greenery will grow through it, and that provides that buffer from those residential units from the public sidewalk. So thank you, David. I think it was a really good comment, and I think this is much improved, and we'll continue to work on the detailing of the landscaping and the fence there. So hopefully that worked. Everybody feels good about that one. We really like it much better. I particularly like this change that we got to, also getting this to read as one unit with this recessed spandrel. That seemed to have helped also. Okay, and then the last one is no change other than confirming something that you asked about that I think I answered improperly the last time. These blocks on Lighthouse Landing, which we intended to set the scale and felt good for a pedestrian scale coming down Lighthouse. This unit is for the one on this side. That entry is for this one. So the blank side of that is for the neighbor's unit. So the glass is facing your own unit, as you mentioned, and I think I answered it incorrectly last time. So we confirm that all of those glass bays are facing the door to that unit, and the blank area is for the neighbor's unit. So that was confirming that. Okay, let me switch to specifically addressing the comments from Mr. David Smith. We had a first comment about the privacy of the townhouses on Westward, which we just discussed. The second comment was the direct entrance from the townhouses on Westward to the parking garage. And our intent is that this adjacent parking space is a designated parking space solely for that unit. It would not be used for egress, of course, would not be used for egress. So it's a vestibule here, a fire-rated door, and a vestibule and another door, and that parking space would be designated for this unit, and it's not part of its egress requirement. So it's a convenience, an asset that we could assign a designated parking space, and somebody could enter the unit directly through a rated door and into that vestibule. So that's the clarification on that. It seemed like it was a nice thing to provide for the people who don't have a direct connection to the lobby. These 3 townhouse units don't have a direct entry to the lobby. So also they might choose to go pick up a package, cut through the parking garage and enter from the parking garage. We thought it was a nice convenience, and that is their parking space. So it wouldn't be somebody else blocking that door. So is that okay for clarification?
Well, you've clarified it, but I don't, I guess the issue is that an elegant approach to entering your unit? I wanted to see how that related to design.
Yeah, so
and whether you needed to, and thank you for clarifying that it would be a dedicated space, but it's just a little awkward, that's all.
Yeah, it's a little tight. I think we don't view it as the primary entrance because they have a front door on the
Well, it's a primary entrance if you're driving into the garage.
Yes.
Right, you're not gonna walk all the way around to the front door, you're gonna walk into.
You're gonna walk into your private door.
Right.
So, what are any other thoughts on it? How we could address the awkwardness?
Well, I'm not sure that I'll address the awkwardness of it, other than to say, in many instances, whether it's block F or even in block H here, when you're driving into a garage, you're typically driving, it's a structured garage. So you're walking to your unit, you're walking to your elevator, you're going up to your floor. These units, as Rick was saying, are detached from the main building, if you will. So they have a front door on Westward, where visitors will walk in, they'll park on Westward. Remember, the garage is a private, every parking space in the garage is just for the homeowners. So it's only for their own convenience to get in.
I understand.
I was going to say the alternative is we don't provide that door, and then the homeowner has to go through the building to get around.
I understand,
John.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, so for the board, it's really just a choice of do we put a convenient door in there or don't we put a convenient door in there?
I have an idea now, if I could.
Sure.
We are way under our allowable compact spaces. So maybe we could designate this space as a compact space. We could do something that addresses a kind of front door arrival, basically dress it up and provide a buffer and a wheel stop for a compact space there. And then we have a little front porch in the parking garage maybe.
All I'm saying is that, what's it look like when you get there? And, you haven't shown, you provided the access, and I think that was the important part. But all right, so what does it look like? You drive up and so what does it look like?
Yeah, well, I think it's a good point, and I think from a planning point of view, we thought it was fine, designated parking space. But from an architectural design point of view, you have a good point. We want to make it nice. We don't want it to be an ugly back door. So one of the things though would be if we designate it as a compact space, we could mark that front entrance. We could even do a little shelter. While we're not worried about keeping rain off somebody's head, we could make a front door entry to that spot.
I think what we're all hearing is when we come back in front of you, one of the new things that we'll provide is a little elevation to show what that would look like, whether it ends up being a compact space or not. We'll show you what our intent is, and we'll show you that, how we intend to make it look nice and feel good.
Yeah, I think-
You don't want it like one of those exit doors where you're leaving the garage, right? Where you're pushing the
Yeah, we're push bar, exactly.
Yeah. So
The concern is to keep it on par with potentially the price point and what we're trying to get at with those 3 special units.
Believe me, we care about that at least as much as you, but in reality, many multiples more. So don't worry. It's going to look nice, but we hear you want to see it, and we will do that.
And you're exactly right. We were on, and Dave, the point I was trying to make, I thought you were discussing the access there itself to make I think, if I understand your point correctly, the aesthetic of the entry is what we're talking about.
Right.
And we agree, absolutely. We got to make that aesthetic for the entry, appropriate for the value of those townhomes. But yeah, the utility of the door we think is important to get in. The aesthetic of it we have not yet created yet. But yes.
And I think another thing we could do, David, is we could do a little recess here too, like you'd have even on the common corridor. Just give it a little bit of a presence too. So what we'll do is when we come back, we'll address the design of this element. Okay. The third comment was the courtyard landscaping precedents. They're generally applicable to the 2 courtyards, the pool on the west courtyard, and intended to give an indication of the quality and nature of landscape design of the courtyards. We'll come back with more detail on the landscape design.
So that's on the roof?
On the rooftop, and we'll come back with more detail about that. It was just generally, we have a great landscape architect who's inspired by the Hudson River Valley, and it's much nicer than a pool deck. They're really putting their heart and soul into it. So those precedent images were really just to give it an intent, but we'll come back with more detail on that. The fourth one is about these home offices. So we've submitted with a full home office that you can see here, which has no ensuite bathroom, no closet, and almost always no window. And this is a post-pandemic, get people to move to Sleepy Hollow, the acoustic isolation. So previously we had an alcove, which would have complied with an open alcove, but the brokers and ownership feel very strongly that this is a need we need to address for modern families. Acoustic isolation, everybody's nodding their head. I think I shared a guy kicked out of the dining room. So this is a really important thing. We'd love your help on this one. We would very much like to not call it a bedroom in the parking count. So we'd like to call it a home office. We'd be happy to put any restriction on, could never have sleeping quarters associated with it, whatever's the right way to handle that. But we would love your help on the home offices. It's viewed as really critical by the brokers, what would make this really a nice home for people to come to. So anything else on that? The fifth is turning parking over to Peter.
So, as you know me, in the submission, I tried to keep things simple and obviously overcomplicated things. So let me just explain very clearly. So for the 68 spaces that can be parked in this garage, 50 of those 68 will be satisfied by Block F, as we previously discussed. The remaining 18 will go into Block K, into that building when that garage is built. I hope that's clear.
Okay. So I think it was being specific about where the other 18 were. And then the last one, if I could, because there's been a lot of talk about the boards and the images, is the actual material palette is going to be important to us. If we have time, is that okay to do that?
Yes, please.
So I think one of the things that makes a building well-loved and therefore cared for is nice material selections. So we wanted to have the building primarily brick. So why brick? Hudson River Valley was the brick making capital of the world, as we all know. And it also has a beautiful human scale to it. So it's very indigenous to the Hudson River Valley. In fact, we were the world's biggest brick makers for a while. Also, at the end of Beekman Street, the very end of Beekman on this site, just to the right, was James Wood's brickyard. And James Woods is the one who basically triggered modern-day brick making by mixing in anthracite coal dust into the brick making process, cutting the kiln process in half. And that was the huge explosion that happened mostly in Haverstraw. He had a plant there, but he also had a plant here at the end. I've been desperately seeking geological reports that support my theory that it was a grayish clay here in Sleepy Hollow, because it was a grayish, I haven't been able to find it, but I was looking like mad while I was sitting over there. There was a blue-gray silt, and they talk about the clay deposits that allowed the Hudson River Valley to be such a great brick-making center, because we had these very deep clay deposits. Anyway, I like brick, and the loft district is red brick. So now we thought that the waterfront living, the modern, shouldn't be red brick. So now we have the tans, the yellows, the oranges, and the whites. So we had picked a kind of warm gray, and that was one of the disputes. Sometimes it was looking too gray. but this is a brick blend that we made for one of our projects. This isn't necessarily for your project, but this is a brick, would you mind? Yeah. This is a custom brick blend that we made with Taylor Clay. If you could walk it around, please. This is for one of our projects in Brooklyn. And Taylor Clay product allows us to custom design exactly a finish. They put different coatings on the brick and they fire it differently and they give it texture. One of the really nice things about brick is that we can get different textures, you know, even though now they're machine made, not molded, we can get different cuts to get light and shadow. So that's kind of a starting point. And then we just started looking at some other brick samples which are lighter and darker, and we can make our own brick mix. But I thought it was worthwhile, as we're trying to fine tune this and get it perfect, that this little image that we had and the renderings we've been doing are about fine tuning the palette, something like this. And then the either zinc or some kind of, we have an interference coated aluminum. This is the new Google headquarters that we're doing in the Hudson River right there. That's actually an interference coated aluminum, so it looks like zinc. So something like that. And then the stone base that would go with it. Do you have the stone? Oh, no. So this is the interference coated aluminum, and this is zinc. So just get something that captures light that doesn't look like painted aluminum, but has a natural reading in the light. And then the base would be a nice black stone. So a nice dark stone, like one of these, that holds up well to our sidewalks and salts and things like that, which I think would look nice relative to the lighter brick.
Also, I think it would be pretty nicely coordinated with those pavers in the plaza in the little video that I showed you.
And that was partly staged because the gray rocks to the gray plaza paving to the gray stone with the black base, I thought would look really nice there on the waterfront. So thank you for letting me get through all that. That's where we are. I know that we're scheduled to come back. We're happy to address any of your comments. Hopefully we addressed the comments from the last time that we were here. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one question or request as we move forward, especially like, say by the time you have a public hearing, if you can provide a section or perspective rendering that shows the height of Block H in relation to the existing buildings on either side.
Yes.
I think that would help people. I know as the public is seeing stuff rise out of the ground, they're not, that's the thing we hear the most about. So just so that people can put into context, not be surprised when it does come out of the ground itself, what massing it's going to be taking.
Right. I guess we all have the master plan so much in mind and know that it complies, but when somebody sees something that's been flat for so long, then something come up, like that parking garage, which is now getting surrounded.
Right. So it'd just be helpful to, I think, give people that context of where that sits compared to that, and it goes on.
We have a Revit model of the building, so what we can do, if we can get the rest of the master plan modeled, we'll put ours in it, we can show some different views about how it fits into the overall master plan. When everything's built out, there's a nice scale to the whole thing. Okay?
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Just so I have a reason to be here, for the record, Mark Weingarten. Can we, do you think we're far enough along to schedule our public hearing to get started on this? I mean, we do. We believe we're at that point where we can at least start to engage the public in the discussion as well, so we can move ahead. So that's our request this evening.
Yeah, I believe that we're ready for a public hearing. As you may have overheard, we have some date confusion, but so either August 18th or September...
I thought you said the 19th.
19th.
Am I wrong? The 19th.
August 19th or September 9th?
8th. Okay.
No, it's the 9th.
The 9th? I apologize. Okay.
So you got one right, I got one right.
You guys whisper at this table. It's a little tough during work sessions. But Because we have the notice requirements, Pam, you'll be able to get to us when you let us know what it is, so we can get that, work with you on that. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
so Pam will pull the planning board members to see who's available on August 19th.
Great.
All
We
right.
appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
So, yeah, I'm,
I'm sorry.
yes,
For the public hearing, if you're going to schedule a public hearing, I would encourage the applicant to make this same type of presentation with respect to the materials.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, just don't, because that'll be the opportunity when the public has an chance to see.
Okay.
I think it was very effective.
Would you want a full-blown, almost, not going through the comments, but just a full presentation for the public?
It's the
We're
public
happy to
hearing.
do it, we just want to
That's
make
the
sure.
public's opportunity to.
yeah, and we want to give your junior architect a good workout.
If I could just make sure I heard correctly, you would like the whole presentation at the public hearing, not just addressing comments?
Correct.
So set the context, do the whole presentation, including materials?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, the original renderings and the whole process, or just where we ended up?
Just where we end up.
Just where we ended up, just to
That
clarify.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Great.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too confused.
Is it appropriate to reference the last two times we met here? Is that?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so I move to schedule a public hearing for Phase 2, Block H, amended site plan approval on August 19th, 2021, or September 9th, pending planning board quorum. Can I get a second? Lindsay seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Okay,
you very
great.
much.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, our Sleepy Hollow Local Development Corporation. Hello, Dan.
Oh, good evening, everyone. We have a spot to plug in our laptop.
Yep, it's right behind James. How's it going?
It's been busy. Lots of stuff going on in the village.
Yes, yes.
No, you need to bring more.
Sean. Bye, Tommy. Bye, Craig. I don't know, it might not be necessary for their presentation. We'll see.
I guess the east parcel doesn't draw as big a crowd.
We gotta bring them next time.
Our big-
Last but not least, we have our LDC with the Phase 2 Road and Infrastructure Site Plan Approval.
Thank you,
So,
good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us.
can you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Daniel Breyer. I'm representing the Sleepy Hollow Local Development Corporation. And with me is Sean Sear. He's representing WSP, who is the designer for all of the Phase 2 improvements for the redevelopment of the east parcel, or Sleepy Hollow Common Project, as it's also referred to. Just before we get started, we are in receipt of your comments on our application, most of which have either already been addressed or are in the process of being addressed. So as soon as we can, we'll resubmit plans and any other documentation, to continue on towards approval of this phase. Just hit the space bar. Okay, so most of you hopefully are recognize this project. This is Sleepy Hollow Common, one of the concept renderings that's being advanced. This project, seeks to return a empty, decrepit industrial parking lot at the village core into a meaningful public space. Room for a new purpose-built Department of Public Works with for Sleepy Hollow. A vehicular and pedestrian overpass linking east and west parcels, multi-purpose recreational field, parking resources, other recreational space, multi-use paths, restored pathways linking DeVries Park, the Common, and Barnhart Park, among a few other things. And so we're here in front of you today to talk about things that are involved in the Phase 2 portion of this project, which is essentially the extension of Continental Street into the center of the site, a new roadway A that goes north and south, down to the bottom of the former East Parcel Viaduct ramp, which will go all the way out to Beekman, reestablishing a connection between the East Parcel and the lower village there, as well as stormwater improvements, closed drainage, utilities serving both the roadways and the future DPW portion of the site, as well as regrading to rough grade portions of the site, removal of the existing pavement, and just to reestablish some of those buffer areas. And then, just real quick before you go to the next page, just go back. Phase 3, which would be the actual DPW facility itself, that will be covered by a separate approval, which we're working on bringing an architect on board that's going to design that facility. So hopefully before the end of the year, we'll be back in front of the board, moving forward with that portion of the project, as this Phase 2 is being advanced as well. And then everything else that you're seeing in the rendering here, outside of the roadways and DPW area, would really be something that's included in Phase 4 or beyond. Most of the program, whether it's active or passive space. So none of that has really gone beyond conceptual design, is approved or even funded by the village trustees. But that's all, part of the overall project. So here we have just a collection of photos showing a site transformation over the last 18 months, give or take. Starting in the top left with, towards the end of the Phase 1A project, an import of about 80,000 yards of clean fill material for Phase B, which we just wrapped up. Phase 1A, again, relocated and replaced an aging water main and sewer line that ran through the parcel. Top center was the beginning of our Phase 1B project. This shows the site shortly after the pavement in the DPW area was removed. The site was leveled. We installed vertical and horizontal drains to aid with settlement on the site as fill was placed in layers to elevate that portion of the site out of the floodplain. Top right is some steel sheeting that was used to protect the existing utilities on Continental from our surcharge program. And then the bottom three are just showing the progress of what was ultimately about 200,000 yards of loose material, either imported or created on site, placed and compacted. So in certain areas, we placed as much as almost 20 feet of fill, with the goal of accelerating 50 years of future settlement into a span of about 6 months. And so that's pretty much where we are today. We finished in June that import and soil placement process, and now we're waiting till the settlement kind of plateaus, at which point we'll be ready for the beginning of Phase 2, which would be to...
And how will you know that it's plateaued?
So we are actually every month or every couple 2 weeks, we take measurements. There were a number of different pieces of instrumentation, settlement plates, inclinometers that were placed with, either in advance of or as the fill was being placed on site, that are checked weekly or monthly, that give us an indication of, like, for example, I think as of the last survey, the maximum settlement on site was about 45, 46 inches. Other areas of the site that either don't have as much fill placed on top of them, or didn't have as much, organic materials, closer to maybe bedrock, only saw several inches of total settlement. So as those readings start going from several inches per month to, maybe an inch every couple of weeks, or it starts to flatten out. I think, 4 to 6 weeks of...
Yeah, our geotechnical engineers are looking for 4 to 6 weeks of essentially no settlement, fractions of inches.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just say, do we think that we're done within Port of Phil at this point?
We do. Effectively, yes. Yeah. And so this graphic shows, the limits of work for phase 2. The gray areas are, what essentially is going to be left of the existing pavement to serve as either overflow parking for HHV. The DPW currently utilizes the site for materials and equipment storage, and then a portion of the site will be left open for a staging area for whatever contractors are coming in to build, the roadways and the DPW facility. Everything in green are the areas where the pavement will be removed, and the excess fill that is left above the final grade, or the final future grade, will be stripped off of the surcharge area and redeposited or either stockpiled for future use, thereby eliminating the need to continue to import at least clean fill. There will still be a need to, for select materials, gravel, things like that. Everything in blue would be the rest of the phase 2 work. The roadways, any retaining walls, closed drainage. The blue at the bottom between the railroad tracks and the property would be rehabilitating the existing stormwater channel that services the site, as well as removal of the existing viaduct, so that would enable the construction of new walls and reestablishment of that connection out to Beacon Avenue. And then the big orange blob in the middle is, would be part of phase 3, which would be once the roadways and things are in, or as they're being put in, that's the DPW structures, compound, storage areas, circulation roadways, as well as future placeholders for a potential community center or emergency services building. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean.
Can I ask a quick question? Would the new roadway be equipped to handle deliveries of potential future materials as well?
So that's a good question. I guess yes and no. So the roadway A, the one that's going left and right on the screen as it's arranged, which is north and south in reality, it's meant really to be a public roadway. Areas that would be serviced by the future DPW, having heavier trucks, snow plows, things like that that'll come in and out. The pavement that is designed, I guess is a portion of the extension of Clinton Street, or the Clinton Street extension and Continental Street extension, would probably have a more substantial road bed or pavement thickness, knowing that there's going to be, heavier truck traffic. But it's intended that material deliveries and storage to the site, there are internal roadways. So for example, a truck at the very top of the DPW area is a driveway entrance. Any snow plows or things like that, or garbage trucks that would be coming into and out of the site would pretty much come down Continental and immediately turn in, where there the pavement design is going to be a little bit more robust to handle truck deliveries and things of that nature. Whereas when the project is fully completed, that road A is really just meant for people to come into the site, drop their kids off at the soccer field, go park somewhere.
The reason I'm asking is just the neighborhood has gone through a lot, and I'm just trying to think if there's an opportunity to share the traffic for those type of vehicles in the future.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, this is a phased project, but with the completion of phase 2, we'll be going from, one current access point right now, for the public at least, to 2. So in theory, yes, the traffic loads would be split, and then in the future, if and when the bridge becomes a reality, if we can get the funding in place for that, now you've got 3 ways in.
The road's going to be built to village standards?
Correct.
So, yes, to answer your question, yes, you can bring in materials from the industry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. So essentially, what we're looking at here is very similar to the last one, just more of an engineering drawing, obviously. And the focus, again, is the roadways that are outlined in red. You can see we've got the stormwater corridor along the bottom of the page, or the western side of the site. I just wanted to highlight a few of the things here, and certainly open to any questions. But the roadways, as we've said, Continental Street will ultimately, again, assuming funding is in place, ultimately extend further west and cross the railroad tracks. But with this phase, we are just stopping it at the intersection of roadway A. So we're just proposing a hammerhead intersection at that point. Roadway A will continue down. We're showing on-street parking here. It's approximately 40 spaces. And the idea there is to allow spaces more convenient to the actual fields, to the actual recreational facilities, so people aren't having to walk as far. As we go down south, or to the right of the page, we hit the Clinton Street extension. That again follows essentially the alignment of the existing Clinton Street, where it went across the viaduct and ultimately to Beekman Avenue. We are showing a realignment as we get to the very southern portion before it hits Beekman, where we do come in and go a little further to the east, and that's just done to make a better intersection. We line up right nice and perpendicular to Beekman. In terms of Dan did mention the 3 reserved areas, so we see those. So even though we've got a large disturbed area within the black dashed line there, it's approximately 20 acres that we are proposing to disturb with this phase of roughly 29 acres of the whole site. But again, most of that is a rough grading. So it's taking off the surcharge, as Dan mentioned, that was put there in phase 1B, redistributing it around the site. It is the rough grading, the buffer areas to the north and to the west along the railroad tracks. Important thing to note though, as I'm sure you all know, because it is an existing primarily impervious site or parking lot, we're going from that to a much more pervious site ultimately. And so that really helps us out from both the stormwater quantity and quality standpoint. We're reducing the amount of flows, and flows that do get us there are it takes longer to get there, so longer time concentrations, and the water comes out cleaner. But the idea from a stormwater standpoint is generally to collect our flows in a closed drainage system, catch basins, manholes along the roadways, and then bring them to the west, where they will outfall to a proposed stormwater channel, swale, if you will, that goes from the south to the north and ultimately discharges at the existing outfall Cantico River. Let's see, so there are some steep slopes, as I'm sure you've seen if you've been out there. The eastern side of the project site, we've got right around the Kendall Avenue, Elm Street area. You've got there, it's about 30 feet above the DPW, if you will, and so you've got a steep slope in between our site and that and those houses above. So as part of our work and transitioning as we go forward to phase 3, there is some work there on those steep slopes, making sure that they're adequate and there's no chance of erosion. There's also some steep slopes as you go south towards Clinton Street Extension and towards Beekman Avenue. Obviously the reason for the viaduct was because of that. It's 25 to almost 30 feet from the railroad tracks to what the viaduct elevation was. So the viaduct is being removed. It's not part of this phase, but the plan is to do that separately and somewhat soon, right? We can say that.
Well, for this full concept to be realized, the viaduct has to come down.
Yeah, so the Clinton Street extension, what is the impact on those properties that abut the extension near Beekman?
Very minor. There's, I don't know the total offhand, but I believe there are 6 properties that require, is it 6? Right?
6 is correct.
That require very small takings, just where the former abutment, we have to swing over and kind of hug the perimeter of Barnhart Park and into the 193 Beekman parcel. So it's that process, I believe, has already been initiated by the village and noticing and working through the title search appraisal taking process.
Anthony has a question.
Infrastructure like pedestrian walkways, sidewalks, is that going to be addressed as part of phase 3? Would it be laid out as part of this phase? It doesn't seem like there's that connectivity between the different areas.
Well, yes, so there will be walkways, some curbing, as whatever is essentially adjacent to either the Clinton Street, Continental Street, or Road A. So we're not, and then ultimately anything within the DPW area, that'll be part of phase 3. But it's, we're not really branching out, like, so the connection to, let's say DeVries Park or Barnhart, that would come under a subsequent phase, and we would tie into, any sidewalks here. So really, the benefit to the public at the completion of this phase is that they would now be able to walk down Continental Street to that intersection with Road A and then all the way out to Beekman, whereas currently they cannot.
All the roads are going to have sidewalks.
All the roads will have at least one sidewalk.
Yeah, the idea currently is
In phase 2?
In phase 2.
Yeah, okay.
the plan is Continental Street. We'd have sidewalks on both sides. Roadway A, same thing. We're currently showing, and then Clinton Street extension as we go around towards Beekman. The plan is just to do it on one side. It does get very tight there from a just steep slope standpoint.
Which side?
I'm sorry?
Which side?
Likely, I believe, the east side, correct?
Yeah, we're currently showing on the east side. It works better from a...
Barnhart.
Correct.
Is that concrete, porous asphalt?
The plan is concrete sidewalk, granite curbs.
So I have a question that's probably more for Clinton. An application that has property takings on it. Does the village, what's the process? Can they pursue a site plan application with those takings in contemplation?
Yes, because there is absolutely nothing that stops the village from proceeding in eminent domain to acquire the property. But they would have to get some commitment from the village and present it to the planning board before doing that.
Can I ask a question? Am I able? Is that okay? I know this is like not a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing, but we'll make an allowance for a trustee.
Is the right-of-way fixed? I mean, is this previously approved? Are there approvals required to fix that Clinton Street right-of-way prior to the public taking, or prior to the taking? And I guess my particular question is why does the right-of-way swing so far to the west instead of being more linear?
To the west or to the east? Do you mean
To the west. It swings toward the...
Right, okay, so currently, in this portion here?
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So that is the existing property lines that we are trying to stay in.
Okay.
This is a very steep slope as we go from 1.5 to 2 to 1 from here to the north.
So you're trying to avoid a retaining wall?
So,
and
well,
to stay within our property lines.
there already are retaining walls on both sides of the viaduct ramp. To the east, you have Barnhart Park up a steep slope, and then to the west, you have basically Metro North, and so, to minimize the amount of, new walls and things that would need to be created, as well as just the cost of, trying to cut into rock or fill, 20-some feet below. We're staying within the envelope of the roadway up until, the point of need, which is where when the viaduct comes down, we have to recreate, or build a new at-grade roadway, which is why it goes all the way from the westernmost limit and then swings over to the easternmost limit.
Yeah, the planning board members have had the benefit of multiple tours of the east parcel in each phase of the construction, including walking along that viaduct. It would, I think, benefit the Board of Trustees. Maybe the other ones have, and just you and you have not. You might want to follow up with Dan for your own private tour.
Open invitation to anyone that wants to come down. Just don't wear, good shoes or pants.
Yeah, maybe you could just show where the at-grade portion of the existing roadway is, just so that.
Yeah, so, basically, the existing viaduct ramp starts at roughly where the intersection of Road A and our Clinton Street extension would start. This is all existing roadway up until, I believe, right around here.
Yep.
At which point you can see this is the existing viaduct to a point there. So, we would require new retaining walls for about, I think it's like 150-ish feet to tie into the area where we would require those 6 property takings, because now we're shifting.
Right, I'm wondering if the retaining wall down to Metro North tracks is more difficult than just a retaining wall that cuts into the barn.
Well, it's
like what's preferable.
Hey, Jared, do you want to take this
Yeah,
offline?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right, can you continue? Anything else?
Thank you. Yeah, again, real quick, typical section. Essentially, it's 26-foot wide roadways, curb to curb, where we have on-street parking. Obviously, it's wider. We're showing that here. 1 or 2-sided sidewalks. Skip ahead. Essentially, fairly common utilities that we're putting in. We have the closed drainage system. We are extending the water main that was constructed under the Phase 1A project down roadway A, providing fire hydrants to serve the site. And then on the top right, the drainage swale is essentially what we're envisioning for the western drainage swale that will run from the south to the north. Our closed drainage system and our open is not only taking our new drainage, it's also grabbing existing drainage that is flowing from off-site properties. We've got off-site from adjacent to the senior center, adjacent to the Metro North tracks as we get to the southern portion of the site. And so the idea is to collect all of that into our new system. It'll outflow into a drainage swale that's going to run up north adjacent to the tracks, and again, ultimately outfall into the Cantico. Again, we touched on retaining walls and the need for them. I'll start on the right side. As we are going along the DPW site, roadway and Continental, the DPW site is going to be sitting above the roadways. The idea is to keep obviously the DPW outside of the floodplain, and so it's going to be raised up to 15-ish feet, and then the roadways are closer to 10, 11, 12, and so there is a need for retaining walls along Continental, again in roadway A. Because of the short height that is needed there, we're envisioning a modular block type structure, showing an example here. Along Clinton Street extension, again, where the viaduct was, a much greater height, And so because of the existing conditions, because of the existing retaining walls that are there, our preferred type of wall is a silver pile and lagging, and that's what we're showing there on the bottom left. That again is only visible from the east, I'm sorry, from the west, so essentially from the tracks is what you'd be looking at there. You can obviously, any type of facing can go on there if it's preferred. Right now, we're still evaluating exactly what that'll look like. So I think those were the main points that we wanted to highlight. Any additional questions?
Any other questions?
Would the facing go on in phase 2 that you just mentioned?
I mean, ideally, you would put the facing on when you construct it, if that's the preferred. If facing is ultimately what we go with.
Though I would say that I think the facing, well, it depends. The walls that are going to be in the vicinity of the former viaduct are really not going to be public facing, so to speak, other than to the folks coming north and south on the train. And the walls that are within the interior of the site, those would be more of a public facing because you're separating essentially the DPW area from with the roadway from the balance of the site. Those are going to be much shorter walls and would likely be utilizing material like a what do you call it? Segmental block that typically, or in a lot of cases, have an integral, architectural pattern that could be selected versus like building a wall and facing it.
Yeah, we're working with the landscape architect, Margie Ruddick, for things like that and the aesthetic feel of it.
Okay, that's great.
Just a quick question. The part that is closest to the tracks that you're saying wouldn't be in public view, would it be visible from when you're up above on Beekman looking back or when you're over at Edge looking back? Even if you can't walk and access it, is it visible?
I think it's visible from the edge.
Probably, yes, probably from the area of Beekman where you're on the bridge that's directly over the tracks and you're looking down. And I'm sure portions of Edge where you're elevated on the site, not from within, it would be semi-visible.
Okay, but again, you're working with Margie Ruddick to come up with the appropriate design.
Exactly. And they're essentially responsible for the landscape architecture.
The aesthetics.
For the entire site.
Yep. Okay, great. Will you need any approvals from Metro North for this phase of project?
Likely, I would think for the construction of the retaining walls, an entry permit at the very least. We're not actually on their property, but we're working in very close proximity. So as we've done with other, projects on the site, if we're within a certain distance, they need to at least be aware and just, not that they sign off on what we're doing, just how we're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, not an approval, but
I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I believe also when you take in the viaduct.
Yep, correct, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. We're currently working with them.
Yeah, the viaduct is not necessarily part of phase 2. It's happening within phase 2, but it is actually its own separate project.
Yeah, that actually, you can see the viaduct extends over the tracks in a portion, so that one is much more of a concern.
When do you anticipate coming before us with plans for the viaduct?
I guess as soon as possible. We have the plans.
Yeah.
There are some other moving parts related to the 193 Beekman property. So we're still, I think, trying to flush out the most advantageous way financially to, accomplish all of our goals. But, it's the design is done. What's going to take, I think, the longest for the viaduct is working through the entry permit process with Metro North.
Right.
And getting sign off. So that and the planning board's approval process will likely happen in parallel.
We're much faster than Metro North.
I know it.
All right. So when are you going to be ready for your public hearing? next month?
Well, I suppose that really depends on, knowing that as part of the comments, having approvals, I guess, from Westchester County Department of Health and DEC, DEC for the SWIFT, Department of Health for the water line extensions. That would be required to have the public hearing. I don't think that we would be ready for next month, but hopefully by September's meeting, we would be able to flush those two items out.
Okay, sounds good.
But I suppose, as soon as we do have progress in those areas and have addressed any of the other plans, we'll certainly submit those to you and I guess then hopefully in time to advertise for that public meeting in September. I know it would have to basically be at the beginning of September. So we essentially have a little more than a month to try and work through that.
All right, excellent. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The May 20th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review those? It's going back a ways, so I asked Pamela to recirculate them. Okay, so I move to approve the minutes of May 20, 2021.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And also, I had some edits for the June 17th minutes. Pamela, were you able to confirm those?
I sent you an email back. Go over them.
Yeah, sure.
You had stated that, Lindsay stated that the massing proposed building appears to have a more corporate concrete design. And you asked whether corporate is the right wording. And it is, she said, corporate concrete feeling is what Lindsay said. I went
Okay.
back, so.
All right,
So
great.
Can I keep that wording?
Yes, thank you.
And then I had your wording, I don't know the exact what I said. But I checked your exact words in that meeting. And they were, that unit specifically without a stoop makes it more accessible. So what I wrote in the thing was basically the same thing you were saying.
Okay.
I thought we were checking it.
All right, terrific, thank you. So I move to adopt the minutes of the June 17th, 2021.
Just to get clear, I had some other
Oh, okay.
changes that I will give to Pam, but I
Okay.
don't think they're anything substantive.
So do we hold off?
So,
You can approve them,
okay,
and I'll give my changes to Pam. I just want to make it clear.
okay. So I move to adopt the minutes of June 17th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I move to close tonight's public planning board meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Want to stay longer, I can tell.
I'm freezing to death.
Bring a sweater,
I
yeah.
know.